Alright, what is up guys, welcome back to another video. Now, this might be a little bit different to usual, but I am just currently downloading the 3.2.1 update, and I thought I'd basically just go over the patch notes, see what we think of them, and just have a little bit of a talk about the current balance of the game and basically where we're at in terms of me. I play every day. I'm a fairly average player in general. I'm no MLG expert by any means. I've played about 200 hours in the game. I've done a fair amount, and I'm fairly good. I would say I'm probably an average player, to be honest, judging by the current player base and how much they usually wreck me. But we're just going to go over the update, have a look at some of the basically the little changes that they are going over with the class update. Obviously, we've seen quite a notable change in general because of the class update, which essentially means that all the specialists have been grouped into classes now. If you didn't already know, you can go and check out the 3.2 update changelog for that. It's very, very interesting, and obviously it is core identity stuff for Battlefield, really. Battlefield without classes just feels so completely wrong. And they've also introduced a few more old school pieces of equipment and a few more changes along with the classes to kind of balance the game, as well as a ton of bug fixes, etc. for that 3.2 update. So we're taking a look at the 3.2.1 update right now, just seeing some of the changes that we did see. Obviously, there were quite a few funny videos coming out about the Javelin specifically and the Tracer Dart Gun. These have both received fairly decent nerfs, big nerfs, to be honest. The Tracer Dart Gun is probably going to be pretty useless now, to be honest, compared to what it was like. But obviously, if you had any idea about, if you watched any videos for the past week about Battlefield, you've probably seen a few people shooting people with tracer darts across the map and marking them, and then people will just shoot them with javelins, infantry, vehicles, whatever you could basically stick a tracer dart to, which is basically anything, to be honest. You would essentially be able to mark it and then hit them immediately with the javelin and insta-kill them, which was hilariously funny, but obviously not very balanced at all, especially considering how ridiculously accurate and fast-moving the projectile dart for the Tracer Dart Gun was. You could literally shoot people very, very easily across massive distances, mark them obviously with the javelin, with the Tracer Dart, and then hit them with the javelin pretty easily without having any line of sight or anything, and just completely obliterating them, which is kind of ridiculously OP, to be honest. And it's something that they have changed. So you can see here in the gadget changelog here, the FGM Javelin can no longer lock onto Tracer Dart while the dart is out of line of sight, which is what I've just spoke about. There's been many occasions where there'll be a tank at the back of the map which has been marked, and you can just pound it with javelins from your own spawn without any line of sight, basically over like 500 meters away, which is kind of ridiculous, to be honest. They're not very balanced. I think line of sight is fairly important, to be honest. Obviously with soft lambs, I think it's slightly different with air vehicles, but with tanks they were getting absolutely obliterated sometimes, and obviously this can also be applied to infantry. Getting stuck with a tracer dart and then getting pounded by javelins across the map without line of sight was kind of ridiculous, and obviously very, very overpowered, which is something that has been fixed now. You can see with the Tracer Dart Gun, the Tracer Dart Gun now will correctly drop off in height depending on the distance it has to travel, so there's a significant drop off on the dart itself now. They've reduced the projectile speed to halved it, which is a massive nerf. And the uptime is now 12 seconds instead of 40 seconds, which is a massive nerf. Basically, they're basically saying that it needs to be more skill based rather than just fire and forget and then, get your team to shoot with like 50 javelins at it over the course of 40 seconds. So these are all massive nerfs, obviously, to that combination that we did see. We've got more things that we're looking at here. Gameplay flow and social elements. Unlocked descriptions will now correctly show for class badges on the reward screen. And also the description of Falk's combat surgeon trait now correctly states that she'll be able to revive faster rather than revive to full health. That's something that I did notice. Obviously everyone was getting revived to full health by medics, but Falk obviously revives a lot quicker. I was playing as Irish, and he does revive basically about half as slow as Falk does, so it's a big difference obviously, but different benefits for each class, for each specialist in that class, sorry. So a lot of these are just fixed issues with basically fixing issues and bugs, to be honest. You can see an issue at that time it took to fire when leaving sprint was much longer than expected with assault rifles. They fixed that now. Everyone was talking about how much that was slowing the gameplay down and basically making assault rifles feel pretty damn unusable, which is fair enough, to be honest. We fixed an issue where the auto-deploy of the parachute did not function properly. That is also something that I was struggling with massively. I hope they've also fixed that falling, basically that falling bug where sometimes you'd walk into the side of a bit of cover or something, and you would get the falling animation as if you were hitting the ground from a parachute, which was very annoying as well. Assault rifle proficiency will no longer grant extra ammunition for underbarrel grenade launchers. The SCAR with like 6 or 7 anti-armor grenade launchers, you could spawn in and kill a tank with all the anti-armor grenade launchers you get for the extra ammo, which was silly. That's also been fixed. Fixed an issue that would cause projectiles to not deal damage correctly when specialists are facing down. That was also something that was happening. And then there's been a few desync issues in general. I'm not sure that it's just this. I think there's quite a lot of things that did get patched that they haven't actually talked about here. There's quite a few bugs I think that hopefully have been fixed. So a few specialist issues being reworked as well. Fixed an issue that would allow players to select any gadget with any specialist via Angel's loadout crate, which was pretty stupid. They basically, people were just selecting whatever they wanted for any class after they've been, they've just put classes in, and then they were basically unlocking this again via the crate, which has obviously been bugged for the whole week, and people have been doing it. It's been quite annoying. Crawford, the main man, being basically the worst specialist in the game, I would say overall, in terms of his contribution to the team, and just his stuff is just not good, is it? But you can see here his turret increased the health of Crawford's mounted Vulcan by 60%. So they were talking about how this is changed to increase survivability when up against direct gunfire. Grenades and rocket launchers will still cause considerable damage, which I think is fair enough. This is something that I commented on in my Crawford videos recently, which you can go check out, by the way. That would be very much appreciated. But essentially I was just saying, there's sometimes where you can be on Crawford's turret, directly shooting at someone, and they can jump around the corner and shoot you and destroy your turret before you can even kill them, which is absolutely stupid. You shouldn't be able to jump in front of a minigun and survive and kill you and the turret. They've also increased the amount of time that it can fire, I believe. And also, this is something that I wasn't aware of, but you can't place down more than 1 Vulcan anymore. They used to be able to place 4 down at a time, which is silly. A little Dozer rework. As we all know, Dozer is basically, pretty damn useless, but you can no longer use Dozer's ballistic shield while using a parachute or while prone. So those are a few things just to balance him out, because sometimes there was some, niche situations where it'd be broken, you wouldn't be able to actually touch him at all. As we could see, they reduced the ADS time for the drum and extended magazines. There was a massive backlash about this in general. They obviously wanted to... They're kind of talking about how gameplay flows in general and how they didn't want people to just be constantly in firefights, and they wanted to have, people had to pick and choose the fights so they'd take a bit more, rather than just standing around and continuously shooting. Obviously, there's been a fair amount of content creators that have basically chimed back in about this and said, well, what about LMGs that basically shoot like assault rifles but have 200 rounds? And I can't help but agree with that, to be honest. But anyway, this has been reverted now, so these will be functioning basically the same as before. But there will be, I think there will be slightly drawbacks in terms of accuracy, etc., to make up for this, I believe. And you can see here the ADS draw rate has been reverted. And finally, the MTAR and the PP2000. These are probably the biggest changes in terms of the potential meta. The MTAR, they've increased the damage to make it in line with other assault rifles. The recoil's been reduced. I think the horizontal recoil was disgusting on it. But most notably here, the PP2000 has had its damage increased up to 50 meters from 22 to 28, which is, I think, basically going to make it the best gun in the game in terms of raw damage. It's got a better fire rate than the SCAR by 50 rounds per second, 50 rounds per minute, I think, and the damage is now higher. Obviously, the SCAR's got a better headshot multiplier, I believe, but the PP2000 is going to be disgusting, so expect a lot of people to be using this. And basically, let's dive into the game, everyone, and see what we think. 3.2.1 is out now. I'm currently in the midst of downloading it. Thanks a lot for watching. These are the changes for 3.2.1. I'm going to dive into a few games today, so make sure you go check them out. Thanks a lot for watching as always, guys. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you all very, very much indeed, and I'll see you in the next video.